So I'm Ian Harford.
And I'm Steve Wild.
And we have been very lucky to have had quite a few hunting adventures over the years.
Yeah, we've trodden a bit of dirt all over the world, haven't we?
Yes, we have. And we're quite often asked why we pick particular products, particular scopes, rifles, clothing, that sort of thing, for different adventures. So we thought we'd come together to bring you 3 setups that we've used quite extensively over the years to run through the optics choices and why we've used them.
Yeah, we are. We've got 3 rifles here. One that we've used for driven wild boar, one that we use mainly for deer stalking in the UK, and one that we used internationally in Alaska on big game.
I have to say they all do a slightly different job. They've all got that hallmark of quality. So we do get asked quite regularly why we use Hawke specifically as a brand. And it's an interesting question. I think people are used to us when we go and do international travel saying, well, why don't you use something a little bit more expensive, a little bit more exotic perhaps?
But at the end of the day, these products here that we're showing you today, they've never let us down and they've been perfect in the field.
They have, and I think people from time to time get a little bit confused as to, paying extra, you're going to get better performance. And, our experience is that it's a combination of the things, picking the right equipment, picking the right features, functionality, the setup itself. But actually it says it's got to do the work.
You're quite right.
So overall, I think we have been very pleased with the performance from Hawke Optics. The results are there to be seen. If you're in doubt about the capabilities, it's really having a look at some of the videos when we have been to some of these extreme locations and actually looking at how they've performed. So if we go through then, perhaps on a case-by-case basis, what we have used and why, perhaps share some of those stories with the viewers here. So if we start back here in the UK, you and I do quite a lot of deer stalking in the UK. Yeah. I'm very lucky I get to travel quite extensively. It's such an important part of managing your shoot, both in terms of deer population and also your foxes. But this is the rifle and scope combination that I used recently for roebuck stalking down in Cornwall with Chris Gale. Now, of course, I like my Sauers and you like your Blasers.
Yeah,
they are closely related,
but
Steve is quite heavily leaning towards Blaser R8 Professional. Whereas this Sauer S100 Pantera has been a fantastic rifle.
Yeah.
A great ergonomic stock there, lots of adjustment, full control hunting. So for me, you can get that perfect fit, which is very important for me when I'm shooting rifles, particularly those I might have to take a long range shot. Now that's why I've chosen the Hawke Frontier 2.5 to 15 by 50. Now, of course, that's quite a good magnification range. It's that 6 times ratio. As Steve's already said, the 21 layer coated optics for great light transmission and clarity. But it's really the functionality that I like about this scope. It's got that long range ability through the 15 mag. It's got the LR dot reticle, which gives me several different aiming points. Now you might say for shooting roebuck, why would I need that? Well, it depends where you're shooting roebuck. If it's in a woodland environment at 80 yards, then it's pretty much aim on and you're fine.
But it's also got the capability if you're out on the hill as well. If you're hind stalking in Scotland and you've got to be across a valley or wherever, you can just wind that mag up and sort it out from there.
Yeah, absolutely. You go to somewhere like Cornwall and there's a good mix of forestry and also moorland. So sometimes the shots you might need to take could be 200, 300, 400 yards. If you're capable, always shoot within your capabilities, not necessarily the capabilities of the rifle itself. And this does give us that great flexibility. Of course, the Pantera itself with its adjustable stock is a good platform to shoot from, but the scope itself in terms of its functionality and its adjustability is very good. So it has these click stop turrets here, very easy to adjust knurled magnification and focus rings. So if you do need to change quickly, you can do so positively.
Yeah.
That is another great thing I think about shooting with Hawke product. They're constantly iterating. Now, how many different Frontiers have we shot with over the years?
Quite a few.
Yeah.
Well, I've personally used 3 for different rifles and different setups. It's quite a wide range.
And that's another great thing about working with a company that's constantly looking at improving its products. Is we'll come back from where we've been to and say, look, this doesn't quite work right, or we'd like to see some improvements here. And within seconds, they've got a new version.
Yeah.
They've taken on board that feedback, and it hasn't cost the earth to make that development.
No.
So, but these certainly, if you're going to be adjusting on the fly, a turret that has.
They're really good as well, especially if you've got gloves on, you're cold, you're wet, you can feel them, you can adjust them. You're not fiddling about.
Yeah.
And the crisp, accurate movements in them, you can feel the clicks. It's not like, have I moved it there?
And they're repeatable. So when you go to somewhere like Cornwall and you might need to shoot 80 yards and then you might need to shoot at 200, then having that adjustability on the fly is pretty useful.
Yeah.
We've not really put this one through too much in the way of kind of hardcore falling on rivers, dropping it down mountains and that sort of thing. But certainly, as you've seen from some of the films, the capabilities and the repeatability over distance has been pretty good. So you've been using the same genre of scope for your wild boar shooting on the 1-6 by 24. So kind of run us through a little bit about how you found that and why you chose that as opposed to some of the other scopes you had access to.
Well, the scope that I was using for the wild boar, what I really liked it when I first picked up is the wide field of view through it. It was very, very good. And the high visibility of the reticle when you turned it on to pick your acquisition up straight away. As soon as you put it in the shoulder, it drew your eye to the centre of the reticle. You were pretty much instant.
So what reticle is in that scope?
Yeah, it's the circle dot reticle in there, which is obviously the circle with the dot in the middle.
That's what it says on the tin.
Exactly what it said on the tin, yeah. But like I say, the acquisition, as soon as you put it in the shoulder, because of the high illumination, it draws your eye to it. And very quick to pick up your targets. As you saw in Germany, I was very successful with it.
Yeah, talk us through a little bit about that, because you've not had much luck with wild boar hunting on some of our trips recently, but you kind of fell into the pound seat this time.
Yes, it was amazing, actually. How many wild boar trips have I done? 3, I think. They've all been a little bit disappointing, but that's hunting.
I think it's the wild boar can smell danger, that's what it is.
Is that what it is? Yeah. Well, they definitely have some danger then, because they've avoided me. But
yeah, because you've got four pigs in one drive.
Yeah,
which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Now, how important was it to have that fast target acquisition on those pigs? Because we saw from the video, you weren't given much time to make those shots.
Oh no, it was vital. It was vital to pick your target up and then switch from one target to the next target with the wide field of view that you've got using that scope there was brilliant, because it's like the leading sow came and I was on it and then switched to the smaller pig behind and then the kyler at the back and bump and recycle when they were crossing as a sounder, pretty much flat out as they were coming across that ride. Perfect for the job. Just used it on a lower magnification, which obviously gave you the wider field of view. It was brilliant. It
is. The lower the mag, always start with it as low as you possibly can, give yourself the most chance for target acquisition, and then only really turn it up if you need to have a particular aim point or over longer distances, but certainly for driven wild boar in a forest, then typically one mag, anything up to 100 yards or so, one mag, 2 mag tends to be enough. Now you do typically like your more sophisticated reticles, so for me I was surprised that you kind of connected with the circle dot, because you have used that tactical dot before.
Yeah, it is horses for courses though, isn't it? I do like a busy reticle where Ian doesn't.
They confuse me
and all that. But for the job in hand, they're very visible. Like I said, straight in the shoulder, saw it, nothing else to fry your brain, because you've got to be real quick. That's why I chose it for this time. But I do like a busy reticle in my stalking rifles for going out longer distances.
I suppose it gives you something else to look at when you're bored, doesn't it, really?
Yeah.
Do you count the lines and the angles? As I say, we shoot very differently. Steve is pretty technically minded when it comes to shooting. He puts a lot of time in, understands the features and functionality, whereas typically I like to put it up to my shoulder and kind of aim off a little bit. But it has its own success though, doesn't it?
Of course it does. Of course it does.
And I suppose if you're willing to put the time and effort and energy in to figure out the features and functionality, then of course they're going to pay off when you get into the field.
And that's why they're there.
So keep making them, Hawke, because Steve will use them. So yeah, and obviously with the Blaser 8 Professional, what a great package. It works perfectly together, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's perfect for all aspects of my shooting, like from 300 Win Mag down to 223. I can basically use the same scopes for different scenarios, because I know as soon as I change the barrel setup, the Blaser mount, it fits straight onto the different barrels, as you all know, but I can just adjust the scope to where I know it is. In my box are written down, so I'm pretty much smack on 0 at 100 yards at all 3 calibers or 4 calibers that I'm using.
Which is fantastic, one rifle to hunt the world with,
yeah.
And then just change your scopes. Now, I suppose that brings us on to really probably one of our favourite scopes for the pair of us, which is the Hawke Endurance 30 WA 6-24 by 50. Yeah. This one in the middle here that we used over for our last self-guided trip in Alaska. Now, if you bear in mind that that's currently sitting on a Sauer 404 XTC with a carbon fibre stock. It's a very sophisticated rifle in 300 Win Mag, fluted barrel, lovely lightweight package, 5-shot magazine. It's a spectacular gun, and I have had quite a lot of feedback saying, "What have you done? What have you done?" And all I can say to them is, "Look, look at what it did. Look at
Yeah.
where we went. Look at how it performed. And actually it delivered the goods.
Time again. It has definitely put some fur on the ground.
It has. And I think if you look at the difference between that and the Frontier, it has still 18-layer coated optics, which is great. Nice compact chassis for the magnification range that's in there. It does have a 24 mag setting if you need it, although it's a little bit on the high side for me. I typically shoot around 8 and 12, even out at 300, 400 yards. That's mainly to make sure that I don't have too much wobble. I think sometimes you can over-magnify the...
And you frighten yourself to death when you've got it wind up.
Yeah, you just don't feel confident to take the shot. So sometimes it's just a visual illusion of having it on the right mag setting. Now, we went to shoot with Andrew Venables, who taught us long-range shooting technique.
Yes.
And he was very much on a 8 mag for everything, even out 600, 800 yards.
The days that we spent out there were very beneficial to us, weren't they?
Not just the long-range
And
stuff,
the
but also the
rifles.
driven stuff. You know,
Yeah.
Andrew and his team are fantastic. They have great cakes as well, which I also
Thank you, Helen.
Yeah, thank you,
for the
Helen.
cakes.
That was very good. So this combination really did perform outstandingly well. When we self-guide, there are so many factors that we've got to take into consideration. There's myself and Steve. We've got to watch each other's back. We also had Jim, the cameraman, there, so we needed to make sure he stayed alive. So you can't be thinking all the time about your equipment. You've got to just know it and trust it's going to do the job for you.
Yes, you have. And that's why we both, if we're going out on a wilderness hunt like that, we're both very familiar with each other's rifles. So either of us could pick either rifle up and use it. So we've spent time on the range getting familiar with them, the scope setups, the trigger weights, everything. So
well, actually, last time we actually took two Sauer 404s.
Yes, we did.
One with the carbon stock and then one with the synthetic stock. But the scopes were exactly the same, the setup was exactly the same, the ammunition was exactly the same. There'd be minor variations in the barrel, but nothing that would make any difference to the ranges that we're talking about. In somewhere like Alaska, the environment itself is tough enough. The weather conditions, the remoteness of it, the lack of communication. But more importantly, you're surrounded by 800, 900 pound voracious predators.
Yeah.
So these aren't just hunting tools, they're survival tools.
They certainly are. They certainly are. You don't go anywhere without your rifle. You don't.
So having a respect for your environment, understanding how the equipment works, and being able to rely on it in no matter what the conditions. If you drop it as you fell in the river. Did I mention you fell in the river and you used my rifle to break your fall? Don't know if I mentioned that. And then I picked it up and it was full of water and there's water coming out of all the orifices and it still performed and functioned. You were crying like a baby.
I virtually broke my knee in the middle of nowhere. But that's fine as long as Ian's rifle's okay.
It kept us alive. But so, you know, performance in difficult conditions, and knowing that consistency, that quality of construction is always going to be there. That repeatability is really important.
Yes, it is. You've got to take something that you trust. You've got to take something that you know is going to be able to perform to do the job. Otherwise, there's no point in taking it. You know, we were quite at ease going out there for first time, 20 days in the field, knowing that there is no way back. There's no way home. That plane has dropped us off and he'll be back to pick us up at that certain date. So if something went wrong, if something broke, then you're scuppered, really.
So there we go. I hope that's been useful and interesting. Of course, we're learning all the time ourselves. We're trying new things all the time, and hopefully we'll keep passing on our little pearls of wisdom and perhaps where we've made the odd mistake.
We keep making odd mistakes. Yeah, we're all students of the game. We enjoy what we do. We're passionate about what we do, and we try to do it to the best level we can.
So stay safe and happy hunting.